Good morning, Senator Joe Griffo.
So you had the
Start this
advantage of
over.
earphones. I'm just trying to.
That is true.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, all right, make excuses.
Well, Monaski's tough today.
Listen, are you going to be singing the blues? Well, let's first of all let's go right to let's talk about what you really want to talk about today, and that is DeflateGate. I know you want to talk about that.
That's exactly what we want to talk about.
So, what do you think of this? And 11 of the so the latest news: 11 of the 12 footballs played with by the New England Patriots on Sunday were deflated by nearly 2 pounds.
I think the question is, particularly that we heard Brady on the interview laugh and say, "Come
Did
on,
you hear
guys."
that?
So
Yeah,
I would say
yeah.
to Tom Brady then, what did you know and when did you know it? Relative to the footballs, right?
I do have to.
We were suspicious of that laugh.
I did get it. I got it.
We were suspicious of that laugh from the very beginning.
Yeah, here it is. I was looking for the laugh. That's why I didn't hear what you said, Joe, to be honest with you. Listen here. That's his laugh. I mean, that's such a weird laugh to begin with.
Are you sure? That's my old grandfather's clock. Okay.
That might be. You're right. That's the Big Ben taking in Grandpa's room.
It really doesn't alter the outcome of the game, though. That's the key here, right? I mean, there could be some penalties assessed and draft pick.
Yeah, but
Listen, they could have used a plunger made out of a guitar made out of a plunger as the football, and the Patriots still would have blown them out.
See, I wanna tell you though something.
Was that Andrew laughing, or was that?
That was
Tom Brady?
That was Tom Brady.
Okay.
I wanna disagree a little bit.
Can we
And
play
I'll
that today at the
and
State of the State?
And I'll tell you this. When it comes to football, you do never underestimate the one word that plays a big role in any sport, and that is momentum. So you never know how well, if had the game started differently, you'd never know how well they could have played against New England. You just don't know. On any given day, a team can play poorly or can play really well. And when you start off poorly, I mean, you know.
That sounds like a great name.
And maybe that played a role in momentum. It could have played a role. It could have been a different outcome. It might not have been a blowout. That's all I'm saying.
On any given day.
You don't believe any of that, do you?
It's the Big Mo.
It's the Big Mo. You don't believe that? Certainly, you've got to believe it when you're dealing with Syracuse basketball.
So what's
Because
the
that team-
consequence?
Huh?
What's the consequence?
I don't know. What should the consequence be?
I think the league really has an opportunity to send a message to repeat offenders here, the Patriots. I'm talking multi-million-dollar fines and draft picks. I don't buy into, reverse the score of the game.
Look what happened in New Orleans.
Wouldn't have happened. I mean,
Look at the punishment on New Orleans. Now
Yeah.
I understand you're dealing with going out and trying to hurt people, but that was a big punishment. And I think it should be just as this is terrible. If that's true, you're cheating, aren't you?
And I agree. This is an integrity of the game issue,
Yes.
which is supposed to be sacred. So,
Andrew.
well, and I completely agree with it. It was wrong for them to have done. But if you look at it this way, one thing that was consistent, and Bill, you're right when you talk about momentum. I mean, we saw that game. We saw that with the Green Bay game.
Mm-hmm.
But if your offense can't put together points, their balls, however they prefer to rub them or have be inflated.
Well, we're just going to run with this innuendo on this, aren't we?
The Colts
We're gonna be all over it.
They
Yes.
scored 7 points.
Andrew's turning red. I can see it from here.
You
Andrew's
think
turning
Tom
red.
Brady's deflated now?
All I can tell you is that it was a long way around the block to get there, Andrew. A long way. Senator Joe Griffo, good morning.
Good morning.
So, minimum wage. So one of the things the governor is going to talk about is going to kind of parlay what the president has talked about into New York State's minimum wage. This has been going on. What are your thoughts
Well,
on
first,
minimum wage?
it's been an unusual year because of the death of the former governor and changing the date of the speech. And governor, it's basically, we've had a prequel here where we've had a lot of various elements of the speech that have been announced in some way. So it'll still be interesting to see what else is brought out today. I think education really hasn't been discussed with specific ideas that he may be advocating, so that may be heard today. So still after this day, and I am appreciative of the fact that they did consolidate the budget message with the State of the State now, which will allow everybody to really go to work the next day
Yeah,
to delve into the details, to examine each of the proposals. There's going to be counter proposals and ideas that we may have. So this is the process that ensues over the next couple of months. So specific to the minimum wage, I want to hear more of what he's got to say about this, because listening to small business right now, they're concerned about this, and they think it will have a detrimental economic impact. So if we're talking about stimulating the economy at this point in time, what do you really have in mind here? Is it just an outright rise in minimum wage? You're going to raise it? Is there going to be some offsetting credit to the small business community? For instance, the last time we discussed this, for youth wages, there was a reimbursement. So some of the small companies, like seasonal companies that are out there, like some of the ice cream stores, when they hire seasonal employees, now they can go get reimbursed under 20 years old for what they have to pay. So you have to look at what are you really proposing here.
Right.
And again, my concern is, statistically, we have to determine nobody's going to deny a living wage. And you want people to be able to have an ability to work and to earn the money necessary to sustain not only their own livelihood but their families. The determination has to be made, is this really an indicator of that? Is it a reflection of that? Or is this seasonal employees?
It is.
So when you look at the percentages, the statistics.
You'd be shocked if you raise the minimum wage, the number of people in media who will be getting raises. Trust me. But I have to say this.
I thought you were tip wagers there.
I really do wonder, like you hear the stories of the person who is lost his job or her job, and they're on unemployment, they're on benefits right now, and they don't want to take that other job or they don't take a job because they do better on unemployment. But even more than that, how many people are on benefits, welfare? They don't want to take a job because they actually will do better on welfare than they will with the minimum wage. This is something that has been created out of Albany that is out of whack right now.
Well, it's not created out of Albany, it's created out of the whole national perspective here, and I think that goes right to the point of how we need a thorough evaluation and examination of all the programs that we have. We need a safety net, but we've been undertaking programs which were intended for temporary purpose for transitioning people, and now they have become dependent upon those programs, and we see generational dysfunctionality in some programs. So as a result of that, let's go in there and let's clean those programs up. You want to talk about saving millions and billions of dollars? Not only attacking waste, fraud, and abuse, but let's go in and say, here's what the program's intent was. Is it fulfilling that? What can we do differently and better? It's not eliminating programs, but trying to look at how they're being used and what can be done differently. As a result of that, then you can look at some of the other things that we're talking about. You talk about even nationally now, last night. When we talk about free, I think you understand that, particularly here in your business, that what is free to one person costs someone else something. I don't think there's anything we've ever been able to prove that's completely free. There's a cost associated with that. So yes, the question is college education too high? You know that. You've got children in college. It's way too high right now. We need to look at this and bring down college education so it's affordable for people. But is the answer free community college? I don't know. I don't think that really is. I mean, because now that proposal by the federal government is going to affect the bottom line in the state governments. Because we're going to have an obligation and responsibility that goes to the mandates now that we talk about. So we have to look at this in totality and to make a determination. So the goal and the objective of making college more affordable, even the textbooks, they're outrageous right now, the prices being charged to students for textbooks. So yes, we got to get a handle on that. We need to look at what can be done. But we just go out there and throw out some of these grand proposals. Let's give free community college for the next 2 years.
Well, how do you pay for it? But I do have to tell you that the one thing you can always count on is, I've always felt that take a downtown that is struggling, bring the colleges in, because they've got more money than God, for God's sakes. And they do, because these kids are getting raped on the tuition, they're getting raped on books, and there's money there. That's why the buildings are all nice at the colleges, because they have the money to work with, where private sector, the small business guy is just patching things up with duct tape to make his business survive.
Just to the point the senator made, if you missed it, the president said last night he wanted to make community college free, like K through 12 is free, basically your basic education. But I want to go back to minimum wage for a second. Am I missing something? I mean, like 3 weeks ago, the minimum wage went up almost $1, 75 cents it was raised.
Yeah.
It's scheduled to go up another quarter, which admittedly that's not much. But are we talking that we want like an $11 minimum wage? I mean, because it's almost $9 right now.
Yeah, they're talking about the 2-tier minimum wage, where the city of New York would have one that is even higher than the rest of the state. But again, Jeff, what I want to hear is statistically, because the argument is, would you deny someone the opportunity to earn a living for their family? So statistically show me that, because I'm seeing statistics that show me that the major proportion of the minimum wage is really paying seasonal employees, not full-time people working out there. There are some, obviously.
That was the intent, but if you go and work at a job at a big box store that pays minimum wage and you're a 50-year-old woman, then that's not what it was intended for. And by the way, we're paying for it anyway, Joe. Let's be honest. So if a family can't survive, we're going to give them benefits anyway. So in the long run, it's all a wash. This is all a bunch of political ha-ha. It just burns me up. I'm sorry.
And that frustration is
frustrating.
a good reflection of what a lot of people say, because we should, again, this has to go back to rethinking how we're running government and how we're providing programs. And I think we can get this right. We've got a lot of bright people, but for some reason we just never roll up our sleeves and go in there and really say, all right, Social Security started for this purpose and now it has evolved into this, and now we're always worrying about it going bankrupt. Well, what do we do to ensure that doesn't happen? What have we done that has maybe caused that to happen? And there are a lot of things, so you can still stay committed to the concept of Social Security and what it has done and the good that it's provided. But the question is, all these programs we need to review. And then immediately when you go in there, you get the fear tactics, where people immediately say, well, they want to take away this from you. They don't want to provide you a living wage. They want to take away your Social Security. That's not true.
Right.
The question just is, how do we sustain these programs? We have to reward hard work, Bill.
Yeah.
We have to appreciate individual responsibility. That's what this country was built on.
Yes.
And yes, you need these safety nets. And yes, we have great programs that were developed from the New Deal all the way through the Great Society. But the idea still is, let's review these and let's make sure they're working the way they should. The one point that the president said yesterday made some sense when he thought about it. If something doesn't work for 50 years, maybe you try to do something differently, right? I'll apply that also to some of these programs and funding. He was talking about the relations between the United States and Cuba. We can do the same thing talking about these programs. We've been doing a lot of these things the same way for a long time, and the results have been costing a lot of money, and yet people aren't any better off.
So if you I can tell you how to raise minimum wage. Here's how you do it. You raise the minimum wage. You could raise it to $15. Raise the minimum wage to $15, but give a decrease in taxes to all of these businesses. Relieve them of the horrid tax rate in New York State, and every business would be okay with paying more. But when they're killed by taxes, you can't afford to pay more in minimum wage, right?
Well, that's a good point, and that's what we've talked about. Some of the proposals that he has advanced, and again, we have not looked at all of the details of many of these programs at this point in time, and that's what the next couple of months will allow us to. You will have an opportunity to see, is there going to be something beyond the modest cuts that he has recommended right now to the business community. I gave you an illustration of the youth wage. You had a tip wage. You have many of these restaurants that are really concerned right now about what their prices are going to be, and I know they've had different people on to talk about it, and I think that's something that's going to have to be evaluated. You have this wage board that's going to be looking at possibly providing an increase when it wasn't given the last time the minimum wage was put up. So for a vote. So this is why there's so much that has to be done over the next couple of months. And you need to look at not only the ideas that he's proposing, but some that we are. I came here and talked about a small business proposal that I advanced, which is a 4 to 5 point proposal, which would bring dramatic savings to small business, and look at the existing small businesses in this community. Not just we want to bring in new business, but we want to keep what we have too, and we want to pay particular focus to these small businesses, 50 people, all these small opportunities that they create throughout, not even small opportunities, but great opportunities really for people. So this is what we need to have this conversation over the next couple of months.
Talking to Senator Joe Griffo. Andrew.
Yeah, we had a listener call up and was concerned about the fact that a lot of people over the past 4 years have worked to get to $8 an hour by getting like a quarter a year raise. And would those people, be, and some people, if you raise the minimum wage, they'd be getting a raise like that almost instantly. With how do you make up for account for the people that have worked for their raised their wage raise in that.
I'm not sure what that question is.
I think it's kind of a negotiated race.
Basically, I've been employed for 18 months, so I've gone 6, 7, 750.
Right.
Now all
now
of a
they're
sudden,
going to bring up someone
I've-
below you, up to you. Shouldn't
It's
the
par with
regular,
you, yeah.
the regular employee, shouldn't they get an increase? Because now all of a sudden the part-timer's making, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The part-timer's making as much as you, or in some cases maybe more.
And again, that's
could
part
be
of it.
because
That's
minimum wage.
part of collective bargaining, and,
Yeah.
and I think that's what we have to rely on too. And we talked about this earlier, how we reward hard work and we reward initiative and things of that nature. And,
Yeah.
and we're
we should,
getting
but
away
I'm
from
not
it.
sure that we do.
We don't, you're right, that's the problem.
I'm also fearing that people don't have faith that there will be any change. And you talk about cleaning up the welfare system and some of these programs so that maybe there is an incentive to go out and get a job versus staying on benefits. I've heard from too many people, why would I want to go get a job when I'm doing this right now? The job is going to pay the same amount.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
I
the
hear
key
that
question
all the
right
time.
there. The key question that you raise is how do you provide the right incentives? And you do that
Right.
by re-examining these programs and looking at this. They made some transitions during the Clinton administration where a lot of things that and we've got to go back to the basic essence of what this was. Transitional. It was an opportunity
Yeah.
to help you when you were in need and then to get you to...
My father's incentive was a boot in the behind. That's what it was. It was you got a kick in the you-know-what, and it's like, get out there.
You know, and I hate to say this, but I'm in that boat where I don't think anything's going to change, and that's all due respect to you. But the problem is so big, and there's so many different components to get everybody on the same page. I don't think
Pick up
it's going to
sticks.
happen.
What's a kerplunk? You know the game
Kerplunk,
kerplunk? You
yeah.
have all the marbles on top. You take one of those little sticks out, and everything crumbles. Therein lies
Yeah.
the political world we live in. But I want to switch gears. We're not going to go anywhere here, and I've got 2 minutes talking to Senator Joe Griffo. Lauren Sylvia's law. This is something I know you're a sponsor of. I support this. I think that explain what this is and why hasn't it been done a long time ago?
Well, quickly, first of all, I think that we're neglecting the issue of mental health and mental illness in our society today.
Yeah.
We talk about guns, we talk about the culture of violence, but we're not talking about mental health and problems with these incidents, particularly with the mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of this that has to be looked at and, again, reviewed and changed from the system. This law basically says, and it really came to me because of what you're seeing nationally. In fact, it's ironic that you now have this Colorado shooter again in the news.
Yeah.
It came to me because they were ready to release John Hinckley, who tried to kill President Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
And Loeffner, the other guy that tried to kill Gabrielle Giffords, and did kill other people that day, the judge in Arizona. I just felt that there had to be, even, we looked at this legally, there's a lot of restrictions on what you can do legally,
Yeah.
but I just felt if you commit this kind of crime, you can't be clinically treated, evaluated, and released after a few years after committing this horrific
So they
kind of crime.
commit a horrific crime, and if their defense is that they're not, it's the defense is not guilty by reason of insanity, which gives them what, a couple of years and they're out? Or I mean, it's
Well, it
terrible.
depends. I mean, guys like Hinckley, you go through the process and you have him there and he's evaluated regularly, and at some point in time, if clinically they feel that he's no
He's
longer
okay to
a
go,
threat,
let
he's
him out.
okay to go, they let him
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that it should be commensurate with whatever the sentence would be in the criminal justice system. So if you get like 20 to 50 years, then you would have to serve 20 years in a facility, in a hospital,
right.
because I'm not a clinician. I can't make those decisions, but I can tell you that I'm still concerned that these are the type of problems that if they're not properly treated, diagnosed, they're not monitored, and I
You
don't
can
know
still
what-
offer a parole like they do in, so you could have, if it's with the chance of parole, you could still, through a mental facility, based on your progress, there could be a parole after a certain, if it's 50 years, then you get
So that's
25
how
years.
I started that, and then we had the tragic incidents here with Lauren, and then
Yeah.
also here in Utica recently. So the bill
Story in
has
Utica
been
is just
sponsored,
horrific.
put in
Yeah.
the bill, and we have Assemblyman McGee has the bill in the Assembly, so it's in both houses. How it moves how it will move will be determined because there's
Yeah.
212 members besides me of the legislature.
And I don't know if this is built in there, but it would seem like if you're criminally insane or whatever the politically correct term is, say you're in there for 5 years and then they say, oh, okay, he's rehabilitated.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you should go 15 years to prison now.
I tried to, that was the idea I had originally, Jeff, but
Yeah.
legally you can't do that. It's almost like a double jeopardy because you can't be tried a couple of times.
Right,
So we
right.
did, I looked at the lawyers because I came to this in the same manner that you are today, saying this is a problem and we need to deal with it because there has to be a consequence for this type of action,
Yeah.
even though they're mentally ill. And I think there may be greater needs.
Everybody that commits a horrific crime has to have some bit of, even if it is a temporary moment of insanity, everyone that does, I mean, if you can take the life of another human being, or you can rape a woman, or kill a child, or rape a child, there's got to be something wrong with you. So I have very little sympathy on the mental illness part of it.
And I don't know clinically if any of this can be cured. I think it can be treated. And I think that's the question. How do you do that? I actually believe that rather than closing some of these mental health facilities, we should be opening them.
Like in
keeping
Utica.
them, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be needs where people would have to be in those settings potentially.
You know, we could go on for hours about this.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, the whole thing, everything. There's a lot there. And how do you regain? Here's Monaski saying, I have no faith that, and because we in the media, we see the same issues come out every year, year in, year out, and it's hard to get anything done.
I think how frustrating it is for those of us that sit in the legislature too, and are trying to make a change and understand how difficult that can be. Now I know we have to be able to educate people, and we have to persuade people and make them understand and appreciate why and what we're doing. But sometimes it's just so frustrating also for all of us. And as I indicated, this subject of mental health, I don't understand how it's not a national discourse right now, and how we're really not looking at the various elements of this and what we should do to improve that, because that, in my opinion, would go a long way to stopping some of the violence that we're seeing in our society.
Well, instead we're focusing on the guns and, what have you, but really we should be focusing on that mental illness, which we did after the Connecticut story. Newtown, it seems like there was a focus, but that just went away when we got sick of the,
I think it was very short. Very superficial and short term.
30 seconds, I'm running over time here. Latest announcement on nanotechnology. It looks like instead, I mean, we're hearing that there was some bailing going on what the government had touted, the relationships, these business agreements, that some bailed out, that this was unraveling, but they put it back together. One company especially is going to come in and take over even more space, doubling it in size, doubling the potential from 1,500 to 3,000 jobs. Going back when this first thing started, you were the first one to say to us, be careful about throwing around that 1,500 job number, because this is going to take time. Did we make a mistake by just coming out and just saying, almost overpromised? Really, not almost, but we did. We overpromised.
I think when you're suffering with economic challenges, you always want to be positive, and I think there's a propensity to really accentuate and focus on numbers. And as I indicated earlier, the importance here is that we're moving in the right direction. That Quad C is going to happen, and the good things will happen as a result of that.
Double in size, you believe that's going to happen?
I think you'll see some positive news as a result of the activity that's going there. I don't want to get specific and elaborate on anything at this point in time, but it will, in the end, accomplish good things for the college, for the community. That one particular project, the Quad C project. But again, be careful when you say it's going to be this number.
Right.
And a lot of times, if you look at it, it's like it's potentially this number, but then you'll see, well, it's 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. The key here is that it's up. It will bring workers to this area. We will have jobs added to this area, and it's a good thing. And then hopefully we can build upon that.